Europa Universalis 5 is the largest and possibly grandest Paradox Grand strategy game. So grand, in fact, it can be tough to know exactly where to begin. So, what do you need to know before unpausing EU5? Hello everyone, I am Benjamin Magnus, and I will be your tutor, scholar, marshal, and envoy in this series of tutorials. Joining me is our friend Little Lorris. He will be bouncing around the screen and helping me point out useful information. In this video, we'll be covering the core mechanics and UI in EU5. This will serve as an absolute beginner's guide, and in the description below, you'll be able to find timestamps to all the information we cover in case you're looking for something specific. Something to keep in mind as we progress through this tutorial is that this video is being produced on an active development build of EU5. That means depending on when you watch the video, what you see in the tutorial, and what you see on the screen might vary slightly. Before we go too much further, there's one setting that I want to cover because it may have a large impact on your gameplay, either performance-wise or aesthetically, and that is flat map mode. As you can see, the world of EU5 is rendered in 3D. If you zoom out a distance, it will change to a flat map. There is a setting that you can alter that will change how that behaves. If we hit escape and go into our settings and then to our map tab, it is listed right here as flat map mode and defaults to zoomed out, which is the behavior we just saw. If you simply change it to always and then save it, when you zoom in, you will only see the flat map. It will never render the full 3D map. If you're seeing some performance issues, switching to flat map mode may make the game run better for you. And some people just like the older school style of the flat map mode even when you're zoomed in. Of course, all these settings are entirely up to you. I personally do enjoy flat map mode because it gives me an aesthetic I like, and I like to pair it with mouse over for province names. Throughout this tutorial, though, we will be using closer to default settings because it's what you will be seeing when you load up the game before making any changes. We will be going through this tutorial as Hungry, so if you'd like to follow along, click New Game and start a new game as Hungry. For starters, we're just going to cover the UI that you'll see when you start up the game. In the upper left, you'll have the character portrait for your current ruler. Hovering over most every element in the game will bring you up a tooltip with more information. And on most UI elements, a left click and a right click will give you different actions. Here on our king's character portrait, you can see his culture, religion, and ability stats. We can see he's a ruler, he's 49 years old, and a male. We also have his traits here. Hovering over any item will give you further information about it. We can see that the Bold Fighter trait gives him 20% increased army initiative and monthly progress towards the offensive societal value. We'll cover what this stuff actually means later, but for now, we just need to know that it's here. We can also see a list of his titles, and a little bit of further information about him like his location, his spouse, his children, and the history of his titles. Left-clicking will bring up the full character panel for him, and right-clicking will bring up a quick action menu. Next is your country's flag. This will change dynamically depending on how you progress your nation through the game. We can see that we are a monarchy, we are a settled country, and we are kingdom rank. Here we can see the current ruler, the current heir, our capital, number of locations, number of pops, tax base, primary culture, and the size of our standing army and navy. And again, we can see that a left click will bring up the government panel and a right click will open the country menu. This number here is basically your high score in the game. You can see a breakdown of where that score is coming from by hovering over it. The next few panels represent your estates. In this case, the Hungarian nobility, Hungarian clergy, the Hungarian burghers, and the Hungarian commoners. The bar represents their current level of satisfaction, and the number represents the change in satisfaction over time. Hovering over any of these will give you information about the estates. The next item is a pie chart that represents how much power is controlled by each estate. Here we can see that the crown, that's you, and the nobility, those are the rich guys, control most of the power in the country, with the rest being dispersed between the clergy, the burghers, and a small amount to the commoners. Next, we can see your treasury. This is represented by ducats. The top number is the amount of money you have stored, and the bottom number is your monthly income. Ducats are used for a number of things in EU5, like bribing estates or building buildings, and hovering over it will give us a breakdown of our expense sheet. Next, we have stability. Stability is kind of an extrapolation of public order, how happy the people in your country are to be living in it. It will range on a scale from negative 100 to positive 100, with negative numbers giving your country debuffs and positive numbers giving your country a bonus. It is also used as sort of a currency, where you can trade stability for doing things like passing different laws. Here we have a positive stability, and you can see that we have a breakdown of all the bonuses that will impart to our nation. Left-clicking will bring up your economic balance sheet. You may be wondering why it does that. Well, it's simply because you can spend some of your hard-earned ducats to increase the monthly stability gain. Right-clicking will bring up your cabinet actions, which will go into great detail later, but there are things you can do in the cabinet actions to increase your stability. Next, we have the population tab. You can see currently our total population is around 3.8 million, and we have a monthly pop increase of around 1,000. Hovering over the population number will give us a breakdown. Here we can see the culture breakdown, religious breakdown, the class breakdown, our top 5 locations, and our bottom 5 locations. You might also note that sometimes when you hover over things, you'll get a contextual change to the map mode showing you pertinent information on the map as well. In this case, hovering over the population shows you the population map mode. Next, we have legitimacy. Legitimacy, simply put, is a measurement of how legitimate your rule is. It is a scale from 0 to 100, with high legitimacy granting bonuses and low legitimacy granting debuffs. Here, we could see a breakdown of all of the bonuses imparted to us by having a relatively high legitimacy score, and below it, a breakdown of the monthly change. Prestige is a measurement of how wondrous your culture and nation is viewed from the outside world, and again is on a scale from 0 to 100, again with high numbers granting bonuses and low numbers granting debuffs. Same as with legitimacy, we can see our breakdown of bonuses or debuffs, and we can see where the monthly change is coming from. Do note that the left-click and right-click buttons on all of these UI elements are contextual. They will take you to the appropriate place based on what you're hovering over. Next, we have diplomats. Many diplomatic actions will require regular upkeep, like maintaining alliances or royal marriages, or improving relations and managing subjects. And here we have a breakdown of our maximum number of diplomats and our monthly change in number of diplomats. Next, we have war exhaustion, which is on a scale from 0 to 20, and is a measurement of how devastated your nation is by war. Now, this will tick up while you're at war, and will tick up faster when your nation is suffering from that war. High war exhaustion is bad, and will give many negative modifiers to your nation. You do not want this to tick up for too long. Next, we have manpower. As you can see, it's currently 0. That's because manpower represents your professional soldiery, and we are currently in the late medieval period, where most armies are completely composed of raised peasant levies. There is a distinct difference between peasant armies and professional armies in EU5. As the game progresses, we will move away from the levies, in most cases, and move into more professional soldiers. Something to note is that because we do not have access to the sea, we do not see our sailor count here. But if you do have access to the sea, there will be another tab. Next, we can find information about our current research. Hovering over it will give you information about how quickly you are researching a new tech, and clicking on it will open up the tech tree. Then you will find the current date, the play pause button, and the speed toggles 1 through 5. Here we can find information about what age we are in. Clicking the number will bring up our ages tab. An age is a roughly 100-year span of time in which specific tech trees are available. Advancing to the next age as soon as possible is important because it will unlock new technologies for you to research. Next, we have a series of buttons. This one will bring up the ledger, which is a breakdown of information in the game. Next is the Find tab. You can use it to search for something that you know the name of, but not the location of. Next, we have the Europedia, our inbuilt, legally distinct Wikipedia about all things Europa Universalis. Next, you have the Automation tab, where you can quickly turn on and turn off automation for everything that can be automated in the game. Next, we have a series of hints to help you play, the Agenda, which gives you historical context for the nation you're playing, and the main menu, which can also be accessed by pressing Escape. This section of the screen right here is the Outliner. Anybody who's played a Paradox game before will be familiar with an outliner. It is a way to pin useful information that you personally would like to see at a glance. Pressing this button here will allow you to customize the outliner. You can pin or unpin information you do or do not want to see. Next, we have the news feed, which will show messages about what's going on in the world. If you do not wish to see this, you can simply click the lower right-hand button and it will toggle off. That brings us to the bottom of the screen. Docked at the bottom will have international organizations. An international organization is some form of cooperative between nations. We have two available to us right now. The first one being the Catholic Church. Clicking on it will bring up the Catholic Church panel. And next we have the Hungarian-Croatian Union, which is a personal union between those two nations. Clicking on it will bring up the Personal Union I/O page. And this tab right here will show you all of the map modes available for the game. This bar is completely customizable as well. Across the bottom are the pinned map modes that you might find most useful. The other tabs will show you all map modes categorized. If you would like to pin or unpin something, you can do it by simply clicking on the star. And finally, back up at the top center, we have our notifications. Now, notifications are color-coded: blue, green, yellow, red, and purple, and are also categorized by severity, with things on the left being things you want to deal with right away, and things on the right you can deal with later safely. The larger purple tab will represent situations around the world that you have knowledge of. Here we have the rise of the Turks, which will track who takes over the Anatolian Peninsula during this age. Now, we skipped over this series of buttons because they all have immense amounts of information buried in them, but we're going to hit those now. Starting with the first button, we have our government panel. Now, this panel has 6 separate tabs in it, all with more information. We're going to hit the value tab first, just because it has the least amount of more tabs in it. Here you can see all of the societal values that make up your nation. The societal values are a binary swing from left to right. The further left you go, or the further right you go, the more powerful modifiers that you'll get in that category. For instance, it would not be very useful for us as Hungary to have a strong naval societal value, as we completely lack access to the sea. Hovering over any value will show you the bonuses you are getting from it, and the tab in the center shows you which way your country is moving. There are lots of different ways for you to affect the sway of societal values. We will hit those eventually. For now, it's important to know that these exist and that you can change them over time. Back to our country tab, one of the things to notice is this little cog wheel right here. You'll see this in various places throughout the game. We've seen it once before already. This is the automation toggle. Toggling this on in any section of the game will automate the mechanic that you're currently interacting with. Up here we could find information about our country and our leader. Now, we talked about the estates when we were discussing the UI right here. This is where you can interact with them on a more granular level. You can see we have 4 estates plus the crown. The crown represents your power. We can quickly gather information here like current power, the number of pops in that estate, and policies that have been enacted. Policies are trade-offs. They're modifiers for your countries and your estates. For example, right here you can see that our nobility has land rights. Now, land rights makes them more happy, but also makes them way more powerful and increases our tax efficiency, as well as moving one of those societal values towards aristocracy. New privileges can be unlocked as the game progresses, can be assigned to estates, and revoked if you want to. Do keep in mind, revoking a privilege is much more difficult than granting a privilege. This button here will show you all of the new privileges that you can give to any estate, and this button here is a bribe. Next, we have the Parliament tab. Parliament generally needs to be called every few years in-game to keep your estates happy. Not all parliaments are exactly the same, and not all countries will have a parliamentary system which will allow it, but many do. The next big button will start the parliamentary session. Parliament must be held in a city somewhere in your country. Holding it in your capital will help move your societal value towards centralization, while holding it in an outlying province will help move your societal value towards decentralization. Next, you have to decide what the parliament will debate. For instance, promoting state religion will give us missionary zeal for 10 years, and 244 Transylvanian Orthodox peasants will convert to Catholic. The number listed to the right is the current amount of support each debate has. Higher numbers will make the debate easier to pass with less underhanded tactics and concessions on your part. But sometimes it could be very beneficial to attempt to pass a debate even if it has low support. You may really need the bonus that you will get from it. In this case, let's go for something in the middle. Let's sponsor a cathedral. Successfully completing this debate will start construction of a cathedral in Pest. Currently, we have around 32% parliamentary support for this debate. That means it unfortunately will fail at this moment. If we allow some time to progress in the game, we will get some pop-ups that relate to the debate. In this case, nothing good has happened. Our only options are to spend money to maintain the status quo or lose 5% support. Down here at the bottom, we can find the parliamentary agendas. Those are our trade-offs. For instance, here we can support our land forces for 25% more support. Now, this will cost us naval tradition, which is okay because we do not have a navy. It will move our societal value towards land, which is also a good thing because we are a landlocked nation, but it will cost us satisfaction in the clergy and the burghers. It will upset them. Now that we are over 50% parliamentary support, our cathedral will start construction when the debate has ended. The other thing we can do with that support is try to parlay it into another action. For instance, passing a law can cost the country a lot in stability. Having enough support in the parliament will allow us to parlay that support into a law change at a lower cost. Here we can see we can also ask for them to increase the size of our levies, fabricate a casus belli, and request additional taxes as well. In this case, I do want the cathedral, so we will just let the debate continue, and it will pass. Unless something bad happens. Next, we'll cover our cabinet. Your cabinet is made up of characters performing tasks. Depending on your country and how it is progressed throughout the game, you may have more or less cabinet slots available. In this case, we started the game as Hungary with 2, and 1 was added on through an event. The first thing to notice is that each character has their stats displayed. That's very important. Every cabinet action is tied to a stat. Increasing control is an admin task, so will be modified by this character's admin score. Stabilizing the country, however, is a military task, so it will be modified by this character's military stat. That means assigning high stat characters to do jobs that they are good at is always going to be your best course of action. If we click here, we can see the list of tasks they can accomplish. This button right here will also sort them by type instead of alphabetically. That is a more useful way of sorting these jobs. In this case, we have a character who has a poor admin skill, but a very high diplo and a relatively high military score. I'm going to assign him to strengthen the government to get the monthly legitimacy bonus. The last few buttons to notice are the little purple hat, which will assign someone to be the head of your cabinet. Promoting someone to be the head of the cabinet will increase the efficiency of your cabinet, but it will lock them into that position, meaning you cannot replace them later if you would like to, and they are forbidden from leading an army if they are the head of a cabinet. And this icon here will simply lock that member into their current job, so that if you turn on the automation, it will not make alterations to that role. Next, we have our country's laws. Laws are broken down into law groups, which we can see here, and then individual laws, which we can see once we open the tabs. Clicking on any law will give us information about what potential other options are available and the modifiers that go with them. Passing new laws is not always easy and may cost your country a lot in stability. Parliament can actually help with that. Next, we have our economy tab. This is broken down into your balance sheet, markets, and trading tabs. Now, our balance sheet here is pretty self-explanatory if anybody here is old enough to have balanced a checkbook. By default, we can see all positive income streams and all negative income streams on the left and right. Clicking the little eyeball right here will show you all of the income streams you're not currently engaging with as well. Most of these sliders you can change manually or automate. For instance, if you would like to just print a lot of money, you could simply drag that minting slider all the way up. But then, at some point, you'll have to deal with the negative ramifications of rampant inflation. And on the right side, you could see our expenses. Here, we can see that we can basically trade all the ducats we've earned through taxes and trading plus other means for other types of currency. Court costs will increase our legitimacy over time. Diplomatic spending will give us more diplomats to work with. And stability will give us more stability. You can also see our army maintenance, navy maintenance, and fort maintenance here. Those are more important when you're at war and you actually need to, pay your soldiers. Next, we have our market tab. Here we can find broad information about the markets that we are currently engaged with, plus modifiers that affect us. Now let's cover markets in EU5. One of the most important things to remember is that markets in this game are fully dynamic. They will change over time. Every market has a capital, and individual locations will join the market that is exuding the most pressure on them. And while markets will sometimes follow geographic obstacles and national borders, they do not stop there. Nations could be split between multiple markets, and locations can be pulled or pushed out of markets into other markets. You could also create your own brand new market. Going back to the UI, we can see that we have a list of modifiers that are applicable to trade in markets. And here we have our Create Market button. And what we're seeing right here is a list of all markets that we currently have a presence in. We haven't talked about this section of the UI yet, and you may have seen it in a number of tabs. So let's talk about that. These buttons right here will allow you to sort information by different criteria. In this case, we have it sorted by default by the most relevant market to the least relevant market. But we could also sort by who owns the market center, the name of the market, our trade capacity in those markets, and food stockpiled in those markets. This section right here is showing us what search parameters we're using. If I click the little X on Has Presence, the list will populate with all known markets. This button right here will give you a list of all of the criteria we can sort by, or you could simply use the search bar to type in what you're looking for. And you can have multiples. Now, markets and trading are very complicated, and we will be going over them in more depth in the economic tutorial. This first button shows you how much trade capacity we have available and how much trade capacity we have total in that market. Trade capacity is simply a measurement of how much trading you can involve yourself with. Trading different resources and at different distances will use up differing amounts of trade capacity. This one right here will show any missing inputs in the market. This one right here will show you pop needs in the market that are not being met. And the last one will show you your food stockpiles in the market. We'll go ahead and talk about trading while we're here because trading and markets go hand in hand. Hovering over the name of the market will give you a quick breakdown about the greatest surpluses and the greatest needs in any given market, and clicking on it will go into much grander detail. Now, there's a lot of information on here, but very quickly we have which item is being traded, the stockpile in the market, the supply in the market, the demand in the market, the total balance of goods, and then we can see the base price and the current market price for that good. Hovering over it will show you a lovely graph. These buttons will bring you to which buildings can be built in the market to produce that good. This column is for RGOs that can be built to produce the item. These buttons are for creating imports, and these buttons are for creating exports. Moving quickly on, this next tab will show us all ongoing trades in the market, which countries are trading in the market, and where food is being produced and consumed in the market. The trading tab is where you will want to go if you're planning on doing a lot of trading in the game. For now, I do suggest automating trade. It is a complicated mechanic that we will return to. All of these tabs here are showing us useful suggestions for what might be beneficial to your country, like suggested imports, suggested exports, or items needed for various buildings and pops. And these three buttons will allow you to switch between the markets that you have presence in. Next, we have our production tab, and you might notice that it is sorted by markets. There's a lot of information in here, so there's also a number of ways to sort and view it. The default view will show you everything listed. You can also view it as a card display, which is a more compact way of viewing all of the information. These two buttons here will show foreign buildings and estate buildings. This is your current employment system law. This automation toggle will allow the AI to build buildings in your nation, and this automation button will allow the AI to decide what production methods are most efficient. Production methods will allow a building to use different inputs to get the same output. Let's take a look at that really quick. Here we can see that there's 6 different production methods, which will all give us beer at the end of the day. This will allow you to substitute in and out resources that you do and do not have available. The grayed out production method we do not have available yet because we have not researched that technology. You can change these manually or let the AI do it for you. This row of buttons will allow you to sort the building list by type of pop relevant to it. This button will subsidize the industry. That'll be using your government revenue to keep an unprofitable business running. This button will close the industry. And this number is how many of the buildings we have in the market we're looking at. Clicking on any item will allow you to go into more granular detail about any good. The Goods tab will show you your RGOs, or Resource Gathering Operations. Here we can see a list of all of our resources and the current stockpile in the market. This is our monthly balance, the price of the good, quick import-export buttons, and these two columns will bring you to build menus, which will allow you to build buildings which consume or create that resource. The food panel will give you a breakdown of the food situation by province in your country. Here in Buda, we can see that there is a town and a city consuming a lot of food, and there are some rural locations creating food, but we still have a net negative. That is a situation we'll probably want to remedy. This button will take you to a build list of relevant buildings that relate to food, and this button will quickly build more food RGOs. Next, we have our Society tab, broken down into culture, religion, and people. Here we can see information about our primary culture. And here is a list of all of the cultures present in our nation. Here we can see Hungarian makes up 55% of our population and is our primary culture. Slovak at 12% is an accepted culture, and the rest are tolerated cultures. If we scroll down to the bottom of the list, we can see some discriminated cultures. This tab will show us works of art in our country. Works of art are very useful for bolstering the offensive and defensive nature of your culture. On the religion tab, you can see our primary religion is Catholic, and this button will allow you to change it if you so choose. And our liturgical language is Latin. That can be changed as well. We can see information about the Catholic faith, a pie chart of the religious breakdown of our nation, and interactions with the Catholic Church. We have a religion breakdown tab, and a list of holy sites. On the people tab, we have a list of all of the pops in our nation. A pop is a group of people with shared traits. In this case, a pop is peasants that are Hungarian, Catholic, and live in the same location. Pops can be anything from millions of people down to single individuals. This tab will show you active and incipient rebellions in your country. This tab will show you a list of dynasties in your nation. And this tab will show you a list of notable characters. Next is diplomacy. Here on our relations tab, it's broken down into current relations, known countries, and organizations. Diplomatic capacity is how much diplomacy you can engage with in an ongoing basis, so that is maintaining subjects or relations with foreign nations or royal marriages. And diplomatic reputation is a measurement of how highly you are regarded by foreign nations. If you have any subjects, you can manage them by clicking this button, and if you would like to create new subjects, you can do that here. And the bottom section of the screen, right here, is showing all diplomacy that your country is currently engaged with. For example, this is showing our international organizations that we're a part of, and this is showing an active casus belli. Known countries is simply showing us all of the known countries in the world within diplomatic range. And here's a quick action bar of common diplomatic tasks. Organizations we saw briefly before, this is a list of all known organizations in the world, like the Catholic Church or the Holy Roman Empire, all the way down to individual personal unions. The Actions tab is where you can go to engage in all diplomacy or progressive negotiations. The drop-down bars have all diplomatic tasks listed here for you to engage with. And here we have our Military tab. For now, it is fairly bare bones. We will go over this in great detail in a dedicated military tutorial. For now, we can see a list of modifiers and several buttons we can use to raise levies, recruit regular soldiers, and hire mercenaries. In EU5, there is a distinct difference between raised levies and professional soldiers. Your levies are raised peasants. They are pops that live in your nation that you are bringing with you to war. It may be easy to throw their lives away, but every levy that dies on the battlefield is a farmer not returning to his crops. Clicking this button here will allow us to recruit some professional soldiers. You can see they're broken down by type, and each type has different stats and a different regiment size. As the game progresses, the size of a regiment will increase. We're dealing with dozens or hundreds of men now, but towards the end of the game, these regiments will increase in size to thousands. And here we can hire mercenaries. The button in the middle will allow you to train a general, and we have an identical tab for navies. For the Geopolitics tab, I have switched to a different nation, just because Hungary lacked access to the sea. We'll go over exploration and colonization in greater detail later. For now, all you need to know is that any country in the world can engage in exploration at any time. It is simply an investment of time and money. As the game progresses through the ages, it will get faster and cheaper, but you can do it early. We haven't done any exploring yet, so there are no colonies to set up, but you would be able to assign a colonial charter right here. And the Province tab is simply a breakdown of all provinces in your nation and some useful information about them. The Coast tab will give us information about every coastal region that we have a naval presence in. Here we can see the naval presence in the region, the change over time, our trade advantage in the region, and if there is any pirates in the region. And here we can manage pirates. Rounding out the Geopolitics tab are diseases. As you can see, Europa Universalis 5 has a number of diseases that you and your people can suffer from. The map has changed to the Diseases map mode, which is showing us current outbreaks in the world. This button will bring us to a build menu for disease resistance related buildings. And at the bottom here, we can check out diseases past and present. This was our smallpox epidemic, which infected 73 locations, killed 1.4 million people, and 413,000 of those people were in Hungary. And right here you may notice that it is not entirely done. It is still present in 7 locations. Don't be too worried about the bubonic plague though. I'm sure it'll skip right over your nation. And last but not least, we have our Advances tab. This is where you will go to progress through the ages technologically. Right here you can see a list of advances that can be researched. Here we can see its current progress, and the list is populated with other advances that are farther down the tree that we can also queue up. And here we can see our Ages tab. An age is roughly a 100-year span of time that encompasses certain technological advancements. As you can see, each age has 3 separate institutions. If we click up here, we can go into the Advances tree and we can look at that in finer detail. Let's take a look at the upcoming Age of Renaissance. Each of these institutions, once they have been adopted in your country, will unlock a corresponding advancement tree. Once we adopt Renaissance, we have access to the Renaissance tree. Once we adopt banking, we have access to the banking tree. These institutions will spawn at a physical location on the map and will spread out from there. Now, while all the advancement trees are at their base the same, they are modified by which country you are playing. If we zoom in here, we can see that we have a unique advancement only available to Hungary. And here we have a unique advancement available because we are Catholic. And here's one available because we are a settled nation. So the advancement trees will change based on your country. Alright folks, that covers the vast majority of the UI. We'll be going into much more granular detail about many of the mechanics we talked about here today in other videos. This is really more just to get you used to looking at the UI and what the buttons do and where the information is. Thank you for joining me and Lorris here to help you through EU5, and we will see you in the next video.